Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's Brad Hurst coming at you. Today is Sunday, September 5th, 2021. I'm sorry I'm getting this video out a little bit later than I normally do, but as you can see, there's been an improvement in our video quality, and I want to credit Alan Gillies for that. Alan is an acquaintance that I met some 40 years ago back in Bible college who's been watching my videos online, and he reached out to me and offered his services, and I decided to go ahead and use them, and you can see the the marked improvement with the work that he has done as a graphic artist and a video artist. So special shout out to Alan Gillies. So thank you so much. All right, so if you got time, there's a link below this this video. It links to a PDF that I wrote. I would suggest that you go ahead and grab hold of that link and grab hold of that PDF and go ahead and read it. It'll help you get up to speed on what we're doing here with not only with the person of Antichrist and Daniel, but it'll give you kind of like a bigger picture of what's going on in the world and help you to kind of interpret today's world events. There's a lot going on in the world today, specifically in the Middle East, and we need to be able to make sense of this, and that PDF is written for that, and these videos are for this as well. This is kind of like a Middle Eastern update today, and when we get to other issues like the apostasy or things going on with Jerusalem and Israel, we'll address those issues. But of recent, we've had a lot of things going on with what I think are going to eventually lead to the rise of Antichrist. Now, by way of review, last week we went into Isaiah chapter 14. Isaiah chapter 14 is a prophecy concerning the king of Babylon, Lucifer, or the morning star, a man, and also a person known as the Assyrian. And when you read the whole chapter, you see that they're all the same individual. And they come to their demise, and when we see the kings of the earth rise up and say, hey, you've become like us, you once shook the world terribly, but now you've become like us, and you now have a bed of worms. All right, so we see this person in his rise, and then we see him in his demise, and we see that this Babylonian king, this Assyrian, this man, this person, Lucifer, they're all the same individuals. And it's interesting that we see that he's associated with Babylon, which is part of, which is modern day Iraq. We see he's associated with Syria, okay, Assyria that is, which is at one point in time was northern Iraq, okay, with the modern state of Mosul. It was once known as Nineveh, Kirkuk, and places like that. We see him associated in parts of Western Syria, which would be also part of ancient Assyria as well. Then we went to Ezekiel chapter 28. Ezekiel chapter 28, we see a person who's known as the king of Tyre, or shall we say the prince of Tyre and the prince of Sidon. This individual is associated with the modern day state of Lebanon. And what is interesting, in the first couple verses of Ezekiel chapter 28, this person has a problem in that he calls himself God, and he exalts himself above everything that is called God. And he even takes his seat in the seat of God between the seas. And when we looked at that last week, we determined that the seas are talking about the wash basins on either side of the temple complex, whose purpose was to cleanse the burnt offerings in preparation for sacrifice. This person takes his seat in between those seas, which is actually the temple itself. Then we see an association with this guy later on in the chapter with the fallen anointed cherub, and he's called that cherub is called the king of Tyre. So it's fascinating to find out that we have in two major places in the scriptures, Ezekiel chapter 28, Isaiah 14, a person who's associated with Satan himself, or being Satan incarnate himself. All right. When we get into, when you see Revelation chapter 13, when we're talking about the beast, we find out the beast gets his power from the dragon. So it's not a stretch to see that this individual somehow or another is somehow or another Satan incarnate, or he's possessed with the devil himself. All right. Now, what's interesting is that when we go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verses 1 through 4, we're told that regarding, the day of the Lord and our gathering together unto him, that day will not occur until the falling away takes place, or the apostasy, and I think that's well underway. Okay, and the man of sin be revealed. And then Paul identifies him and says he's the one who exalts himself above all that is called God, and he takes his seat in the temple of God. Well, that's a reference back to, the Ezekiel passage, Ezekiel chapter 28. So I don't think you can deny that. I think you would have to kind of sort of be blind to deny that. But Paul goes on to explain this guy. He says that this guy's working is after everything. His working is after Satan and so forth. And then Paul goes on to say that the mystery of iniquity, even in his day, okay, even though this person's being restrained at the time or waiting for the restrainer to be removed, even in his day, the mystery of iniquity was already at work. Now that phrase, the mystery of iniquity, is very interesting. It's a counter phrase, is essentially what it is. Because in 2 Timothy 3:16, I believe it is, either 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy 3:16, we are told in the King James Version specifically that the mystery of godliness is God manifest in the flesh. Well, the counter phrase to that would be the mystery of iniquity, which would be Satan manifest in the flesh. So if I think you take those two passages together, the Timothy passage, God manifest in the flesh, the Thessalonians passage, the mystery of iniquity, okay, the mystery of godliness, the mystery of iniquity, and then you look in the Old Testament passages where you see passages where there's someone who's associated with Satan, who's associated with a man, okay, as a man, and he's got some connection with these territories of Iraq, or shall we say Babylon, Syria, or shall we say parts of Assyria and Lebanon. It's pretty easy to see that we're talking about an individual who is Satan or the devil manifest in the flesh. He's Antichrist. He's the opposite of Christ. Okay? Instead of God manifest in the flesh, he's the devil, or shall we say Satan manifest in the flesh. So that's kind of like our doctrine behind all of this. But I want to go to another passage in Scripture and show you something that I think is helpful for us even more so today than ever. Is that in Daniel chapter 11, verses 37 through 38, I'm going to read this. He says, by the way, in this chapter, the people, the scholars, and I hate to say scholars, not reference any, but this is a short video. So most conservative evangelical writers, prophecy teachers, dispensationalists, and so forth would agree that Daniel 11, from at least from 37 on, are talking about the same person, which is actually the king of the north, the little horn, Antichrist, the man of sin, whatever you want to call him. All right, and so regarding this individual, this is what we read: Daniel chapter 11, verses 37 through 38. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. But in his estate he shall honor the God of forces. A God whom his fathers knew not shall he honor with gold and silver and with precious stones and pleasant things. In fact, in Strong's Hebrews 581, we find out that word forces is talking about a fortress. It's talking about strength, defenses, okay, a rock, strongholds. And what we are learning about this individual is, in this passage in particular, he's not going to regard not only the God of his fathers, he's not going to regard any God. He's going to exalt himself above all that is called God. Well, what do you see in the 2 Thessalonians passage? What do you see in the Ezekiel passage in Ezekiel chapter 28? I mean, what do you see? You see a guy exalting himself above all that is called God. All right? But according to Daniel, not only does he do that, he has no regard for the desire of women. Okay? Anything with regard to women, any desires or longings or yearnings that a woman would have, or that would be that would involve a woman, he has no regard for that whatsoever. Isn't it ironic that in the world of Iraq and Syria and Turkey, in the middle, specifically throughout the Middle East and other parts of the world, we actually have a religion today that has no regard for women whatsoever? All right? Okay, I don't think that this stuff is a coincidence, but it's that God of forces and God of fortresses thing that I actually want to pinpoint. And I am not at this point in time calling anybody Antichrist. I do think that we have someone who might actually be a good runner-up. I mean, a good shall we say, a good candidate, not a runner-up, but a good candidate. But, if it's not him, it might be somebody who comes after him. Maybe there's some other things that need to take place, but we need to be watching and seeing what's going on. And there's some developments in the world that I think that might sort of help us to say, hey, maybe this God of fortresses thing might start be coming into play here. This is a news article that shows up in what's referred to as U.S. News Today. It showed up on 5/19/21. It was a couple months back. This article says this. It says, for the world, Erdogan is preparing to make a loud statement. I expect to pay a visit to the TRNC, Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus, on July 20. During it, I will voice a message that will concern not only the island, but also the whole world. If you do not show determination, then no one will take you seriously. Okay? If you do not show determination, then no one will take you seriously, he stressed, without specifying the topic of the upcoming speech. This next article here is found in what's called The Insider. Okay, it says, Turkey is building its own bigger version of the Pentagon meant to span 135 million square feet and support about 15,000 personnel. This appeared on August 31st, 2021. Okay, Erdogan said the complex would span 135.6 million square feet, 9.5 million square feet of it indoors, and accommodate up to 15,000 staff members. We will be establishing a structure here which will strike fear in our enemies with its standing and give confidence to our friends. He goes on to say, Turkey has been focusing on its local production of arms and war equipment, developing drones with payloads meant to rival the U.S. Reaper airstrike drone, as well as its own warship design and construction. Okay? And you have here an artist's rendition of what this is going to look like. And specifically within the structure itself, you have a depiction of the Turkish crescent moon and star. And this is going to be so big, you're going to be able to see it from space. So just with those two articles alone right here, we see that there was supposed to be an announcement made on July 20th. I didn't see any announcement made on July 20th regarding Turkey and what Erdogan was going to do, but we do see an announcement showing up on August 31st, and Erdogan says, we're going to build this superstructure, and if you're our enemies, this is going to strike fear in you, and if you're our allies, it's going to give you confidence. Okay? But then we have another news article here from what's called the Hurriyet Daily News, September 1st, 2021. Okay, it says the world starts acknowledging success of Turkish drones, Erdogan, noting that Erdogan has become a country that can produce many defense industry products ranging from tanks to cannons, missiles to radar, bombs to rifles, he said. In the next 3 to 5 years, I hope that when we complete our projects by protecting the country's climate of stability and trust, we will be able to top the list in this field. Now, is it any coincidence that Turkey occupies northern Iraq, old Babylon? Is it any coincidence that Turkey is occupying the city of Mosul, or shall we say ancient Nineveh, the capital of Assyria? Is it any coincidence that Turkey is occupying northwestern Syria, ancient Assyria, ancient Babylon? Is it any coincidence that Turkey is getting a foothold inside of Lebanon? Is it any coincidence that Islam has had a revival inside of Turkey, a religion that has no regard for women? Is it any coincidence that Turkey is building this military superstructure, a gigantic fortress as it is? Is it any coincidence that Turkey is excelling at the production of its own arms and that within 3 years wants to be equal to the best countries in the world in terms of military? You tell me. Am I saying that we have the Antichrist in the person of Vertigan? No, I'm not saying that. I'm simply stating that this is one to watch. All right? It might not be him, but maybe somebody after him. But we do have a lot of things falling into place here that seem to be pointing towards the inevitability of the rapture itself. Okay? The great apostasy is so underway. It's hard not to. You would have to be blind to not see it. Okay? And is it possible that the man of sin is preparing to be revealed? Okay? The mystery of iniquity, Satan in the flesh. Okay? I can't tell you conclusively, but I simply say we'll just keep watching, we'll keep praying, and if you've got things you want to comment, please go ahead and make a comment. Make sure you subscribe, hit that subscribe button there at the bottom, read the article in the link below, and until next week or until the next video, we'll see you, and may God bless, and may we keep our eyes watching, praying, and looking, and bringing ourselves in compliance with the Scripture. God bless.